Good evening and welcome to our regular meeting of council, Monday, December 18th at 7 p.m. Moved by Deputy Mayor Lang, seconded by Councillor Jaworski. Be it resolved that the December 18th, 2023 council meeting of the Township of South Glengarry now be opened at 7 p.m. All those in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, we'll stand for the singing of our national anthem. Would there be any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Approval of the previous meeting minutes agenda, sorry. Are there any amendments or changes or omissions?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we have several items that have been requested to be pulled from the consent agenda this evening into items for consideration. Those being item 10C, the departmental update for Parks, Recreation and Culture. Item 10E, the departmental update for infrastructure services. Item 10F, the departmental update for finance, as well as item 10G, the 2024 committee processes and handbook.
Thank you very much. So moved by Councillor McDonnell, seconded by Councillor Bougie. Be it resolved that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry approve the agenda as amended. All those in favor? Carried. Moving to the approval of previous meetings being December 4th in 2023 and the public meeting December 4th, 2023. I'll say it in the resolution. Are there any amendments or errors or omissions caught? Moved by Deputy Mayor Lang, seconded by Councillor McDonnell. Be it resolved that the minutes of the following meetings be adopted as circulated. Previous meeting minutes, December 4th, 2023. Public meeting minutes, December 4th, 2023. All those in favor? Oh, sorry.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, should I move if I wasn't here, or second if I wasn't here, or is it fine? It's fine procedurally? Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you, Councillor McDonnell. So all those in favor? Carried. We'll get into presentations and delegations. We have OPP update here. Norman Lamontagne. And just speak as close as you can to the mic, please.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, member of the council. I'd like to apologize again for last council meeting that I was supposed to be present, and I unfortunately got sidetracked with other policing issues going on, and but again, apologize for not being present and giving you a heads up beforehand. Tonight, I'm going to give you a bit of an overview of the past since of January 2022 as up to November 15. Some of the stats. The reason I extend a bit of time in between the time I come here to at least to accumulate enough data or having something to present to you in a much more in a wider picture, because within a short period of time it'd be difficult to to see trends, and for us also, it helps us in terms of operations to establish where we need to have our operations or we need to focus certain of our enforcement. Okay. I believe you all have a copy of this part of this Excel. Okay. First of all, let me go through the collision part. As you can see, while collision is extremely difficult to forecast, there's obviously weather will have a significant impact on how collision occurred. And as you can see here, for the South Glengarry segment, where for the year 2022 to 2023, there was a significant decrease of 45% of collisions. I mean, there could be a lot of factors related to this. Number one, obviously the weather, but secondly, also, as I was talking to Councillor Bougie earlier, police presence has a significant impact. One of our objective here in SDNG, we really praise and push our officers to be high-vis. High visibility is really, really important for us. And I kind of refer to, for if one of you go to Toronto, often if you leave from here, from Lancaster, you cross SDNG up to our border, you're likely going to come across 1, 2, 3, 4 cruisers. Good luck if you see one cruiser after up to Toronto most of the time. I don't know if you, I'm sure you all know this. So that's why here we were pretty known to be very high vis, and we recently, over the past few months, received a lot of new officers, younger officers that started here, and right from the get-go, those are things we talked about. There's 3 components, right? Traffic enforcement is really important. We talk about investigative excellence. So whenever we're called upon an investigation, right, to do a very detailed and accurate and a good investigation. Obviously, we put a lot of pressure on the sergeants to ensure that we're always up to the standard we're expecting officers to be. And number 3, community engagement. This is really, really important for us. We encourage our officers to be more present in our community. Get out the cruiser. If there's a hockey game at the rink, stop in and go watch and talk to people. It's summertime, you know, things like that. Or walk the beat here in Lancaster or here in Williamstown, and goes to the businesses and talk to people. So this is really important for us. And we are certainly encouraging our members to do that. Going back to collision here, as you can see, for the year 2023, if we look at the overall SDNG detachment, which is 6 detachments across the whole counties, South Glengarry County Township is 17% below the average of the rest of the counties, which is good. Moving down to the right, I'll do a little parallel with the over 80 charges, which is impaired driving. As you can see, for 2022 in South Glengarry, there's a total of 56 ride check, as opposed to 64 for 2023, which is an increase of 14%. If you look at the over 80 charges and impaired driving, there's a drop of 44%. So if you look at that from that perspective, when we have IVIS and we do a lot of ride checks, this has an impact on our people, because they see we're there, and this serves as some form of influence for people who don't drink and drive, because they know we're around. I know we can't eliminate 100% of it, but the more we are present, better it is. And as you could see on the SDNG side, on overall, we're below 25% and 15% compared to the rest of the other counties. You have any question on those? Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, through you, Mayor McDonald. Thank you, Sergeant Labontaine. My question is, so for the ride number, so that's the number of ride stops, not necessarily, that's not the number of folks or like, that are charged with over 80. Those
Oh, no, no,
are
no,
two
no,
separate
no.
things.
Ride check is on record, let's say, one of my officers, let's say, do a ride here in Williamstown, he'll generate an occurrence. And in that occurrence, he may very well intercept 35 vehicles and check for sobriety. This may lead to an impair, or it may not. I mean, overall, it's really a small number that will come across that will have impair. But the important is to be present and show that we're there to check this out, you know? And those numbers come from that.
If I may just supplement. So if you have 64 ride checks, you could, like you say, you could have 30 cars go through a ride check.
For
So
one.
For one, that's what I mean. So it'd be like 64, in terms of interactions, it's like 64 times 30.
Oh, yeah, and depending on the time of the day, I've had some of my members doing ride check at the off-ramp, westbound 401 at 2 o'clock in the morning, at the en route. Well, you come across 200 car in an hour. So, so when you see 56, that could represent 500 cars, easy. That's good? Okay. Okay, for the B&E, break and enter, there's multiple facets for B&E for us to try to reduce the B&Es and criminality, including the cars and theft from a motor vehicle. We have our auxiliary unit, often that are mandated to do walk around, and they check the doors of the car. They put those pamphlets, and I don't know if you guys have seen that before. It's like a lock it or lose it, little pamphlet as a reminder of people who lock your door, don't leave any valuable in the car. Also, some of the things that we've seen lately is a lot of stolen cars. Everyone is actually impacted by that. But there's little things that are made a significant impact is, let's say if you have a car that is kind of the one that are targeted, that you see the most being stolen, is the use of, let's say, a club. If you buy a club, it could be $100, and normally they'll attach it to the steering wheel. What it does is, for people that steal vehicle, it's time. Time is the essence. They'll steal your car in about 2 minutes. The car be gone, even less than that. And if you had times, often they will deter them from taking your car, which if they see a club, they're not going to be happy. They might just walk away. If they really want it, well, it may happen too. But so, and also the key fobs. Often I was talking to Councillor Bougee. Often when you walk in your home, you leave your key there. Yeah, you attach your key up to the wall or on the little by the door. And what people do, they can send a signal to your remote. They're going to stand right outside your door. They can pick the signal from your remote and steal that signal and unlock your car and drive away. So that's why it's a bad habit to keep your remote anywhere near the door, because if you put it further in the house, they won't be able to get that. So these are tricks and things that they are able to steal your car very, very quick. Across SDNG, we've seen a decrease of B&E of 27%, which is really good. It always goes back to our high-vis policies, and we by stressing a lot on that part. Obviously, our work involves a lot of paperwork. Our officer spends a lot of time at the office, but we really push a lot. The least we have computers in car, park somewhere, do your work. At least you're still high-vis. You can still do some work in your car. The fraud, for the fraud, well, what we see the most right now is the online frauds. I'm sure you all receive those little crazy emails and text messages. Either you win something or you owe somebody, and somebody of your relative are sick and they want money. Unfortunately, the targeted audience in this is often the elderly people, and they get scared and they get scammed very, very easily. And this is a really hard one to try to avoid. But there's a lot of effort through education, try to minimize the impact of that. Moving on to mischief. The mischiefs, normally the mischief either are, we don't see a lot of those over the year. Normally they're domestic related. I would say most of them will be domestic related. As you can see here in South Glengarry, 33 for the year 2022 and 30, a little slight reduced amount of percentage, but overall it's quite the same across the entire SDNG counties. The theft, what I can see from the theft, it's mainly for the theft of gasoline from the gas station. This is what we see the most. There's some efforts to encourage gas station to use different means to allow people to take the fuel. A lot of them, they refuse to do it because they want the customers to go inside the store. That's where they make the profit. But there's a price to pay when you do that. So in Alexandria, for instance, if you're at the far pump, you have to pay at the pump. And I think there's a few here in Lancaster now. Is it? You have to do that? And only the one nearby the store, you actually can pay, you can activate the pump right away and go in. But mainly, this is one of the biggest issues that we've seen. But the onus is on the owner to find ways to reduce the amount by taking different actions or changing some of the process. We've been trying to get that done, but it's quite, if they don't, there's nothing we can force them to do it. Moving on to the crime against person. The first one would be the assault. The assault and sexual assaults, a lot of them and the mischief is often related, like I said, to domestic dispute. But as in assault, as you can see, there's a drop of 31% in South Glengarry over the year. And overall, we're 27% below the average among the 6 other counties. Sexual assaults, am I okay so far, or am I going too fast? No? Okay. Sexual assaults, you know, when we had during COVID, there was a significant increase, so was domestic disputes. Now we're seeing we're almost back to what we've been in the past. Often what we see in sexual assaults is often the fear from the victim to come forward, and it's very difficult to have victims of sexual assault come forward, even though sometimes we know or we have, but we're not enough ground to lay charges. It's a difficult, very, very difficult to tackle. And for SDNG overall, we're below 5% compared to the rest. The biggest one, no, I don't want to minimize the others, but domestic dispute is probably one of the toughest investigation I ever had to do, because they're never the same. They're very impactful on people's family, and then try to minimize the impact on children. So this is really, it's not a, every case is different, and it's really, really challenging to always stay focused on the victim's safety. And often the victim doesn't want to go ahead. We still need to proceed with charges if we have ground to lay charges. And often victims have a hard time to understand that. but the way the law has been put in place due to previous coroner's inquests and others incident, homicide, domestic homicide in the past, well, this brought us to a point where there's no options. There's no alternative. So if the grounds are there, we shall lay the charges. As you can see here, we have an increase of 22% in South Glengarry. It's hard to tell what's the reasons. Certainly, COVID-19 had a great impact on domestic because we had a lot more during COVID, and now we're gradually going down, even though the numbers are going up here for 2023. We're 4% above the rest of the counties, but I can't really say exactly the root cause of it. Family dispute, we're below 18% and below 7% across the counties. For the drug offenses, as you know, you probably know that we have a community street crime unit. Few officers are dedicated to property crime and drug investigations. They are, that's all they do. And we're trying to have people in our community have more concern about the guy in our village, in our town that sell a small amount of drugs to locals than the person from Toronto that sells a huge amount. These guys, our CSU member, focus on street level. This is what impact our community, our children, So we're trying to have them to focus on that, okay? Do you have any question regarding CSU? No? Okay. The mental health calls, threat to suicide, this is another big one that we've been working really hard to mitigate over the past years. There's a significant increase over the years of mental health, people suffering of mental health. Our MCERT, I'm sure the inspector maybe already discussed or ever brought this up to you, that with the MCERT unit, with the nurse and our officers going to calls. This is incredible, the impact it has on our community. And I've been to many of those calls with the MCERT in the past, and the reactions from the public, for the people that are going through a mental health episode, when they see nurse in their vest from the nurse, their behaviors change completely. Typically, they will see two officers coming in, and okay, now the fight's on, or there's always, but there's almost a significant de-escalation right away. And the beauty of that is it reduced significantly the amount of apprehension that we have, therefore reducing the number of pressure from the hospital. We have less officer going to the hospital unless we have to. Often they do follow up later on with that same person through social services and through mental health counseling. Therefore, letting us out of that play, unless we have to be, we can focus on other issues, and they have the proper service for mental health. And if we put a cost at the end of this for two officers spending 6, 7, 8, 9 hours at the hospital, 2 officers for that long, that's 2 officers less on the road doing other important calls. So we see the impact. There's a huge impact. And also the hospital is already clogged with a full ER. Now we're bringing in a mental health patient on top of that. So it's really impactful, and I'm hopeful that this would become a permanent, the province will see a permanent establishment of MCERT across the province. I'm not sure if this is going to happen, but I really hope it will. Overall calls for service, as you can see, were a little higher than last year, 4% higher. And actually, yeah, higher. And we're 15% lower than the rest of the counties. I think overall in South Glengarry, we have a lot of new officers reporting in Lancaster. As we speak right now, we have 13 new probationary officer being coached in SDNG. We have 4 more coming up in January. And we received 2 lateral yesterday from other detachments. And we got 2 EPOs, experienced police officers, that we still, no, I shouldn't say that, that came with us from other agencies. And then it really brought SDNG is known to be a place nobody wants to leave, wants to get here, and people will spend their career here. They don't go anywhere. That's why now we have a significant of people retiring or that already left. That's why we've seen a lot of new officers coming in, and because this is a great place. It's probably one of the greatest detachment to work in the province because of where we are, the geography, and even the dynamic. SDNG detachment is almost like the poster child of the OPP. They looked at us being a big detachment, but also for the way we do things, to care for our members and the work they do and the community we serve. So these are the 3 things we really, really work hard to maintain. And then do you have any question on the stats part?
Were there any follow-up questions? All right, I do like that you touch on the community, because that's a big thing I think, is that we always feel like we're different, but like having your officers in the community, like stopping by the arena, it does like humanize an officer, as you said. Like sometimes people will have the perception that like the police are only there for something, but to see them out in the community, that's great, because we have a great community, so it just reinforces that. So I do appreciate that aspect of policing.
Well, thank you. I often, every officer that comes in, I have one-on-one. The inspector have one-on-one with them, and so I do have one-on-one with them. And often, I've been here my entire career since I left the Army. And one of the things when I first got here is I recognized that right from the start. Going from I'm trying to get my new officers to do the same. If they go to a scene, let's say, of somebody that passed away, they're the first officer on scene. Often they perform CPR. There's different situations they go, and we end up with somebody that passed away. It doesn't take much just to go by the funeral home on the day of the wake. Pop in, just say hi, shake the hands, and give your condolence to the family and leave. This has such a huge impact on people's family, especially if you're the first one that was there. You're the one to notify the family. You're the one that did maybe CPR on the person. This is really impactful. And those are things I want my officer to understand, how this is really important to do. Or Christmas Eve, if you're working day shift, most of the seniors place the long-term care. Most of these people are gone in their families, but there's always some that have nobody, and they're there by themselves. And I remember the very first time I did that, and the nurse, as I walk in, look at me like, somebody called or 911 or something? No, just came in to see the people in there. There was only a few of them, but just to go there and say Merry Christmas. Turned out, remember the very first time I did that was in Alexandria, and turned out to be a war veteran. Obviously, I'm a veteran, so, oh boy, it's like it was the nicest Christmas he ever had. So see, those little things goes a long way when my officers understand how this is important to do. From going to the arena, going to the soccer field in summertime. So we're really encouraged, anyway, overall, my officers to do that. So.
Well, thank you. And I just I think the counties also have supported that nurse and STNG OPP relationship. It's been built into our budget in hopes that like it does get provincially supported at some point. But,
Oh, gee, yeah.
it has been very well supported at the counties and well received. Deputy Mayor Lang, were you going to say the same thing, or and then we'll go to Councillor Jaworski after.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. And thanks for the report. I just wanted to add a little bit that I have noticed and a few comments that I've had, and then that's I'm on the fire department as well, so through the fire department. And I don't, not that it was any wrong, but it just your officers seem to be very pleasant to deal with. I don't know if you've changed, you know, the way you're telling them to respond to us or whatever, the fire department, and then somebody from another station who, we don't do the 401, but that station does the 401, said really pleasant to work with now. You know, there was a time where they were maybe like fire department wanted to close the highway, police were saying, no, leave it, keep it open. He said that everything's running smoothly. They're just really pleasant to work with. So just a big thank you for whatever you guys are doing. The officers are extremely pleasant to work with.
Well, I'm glad to hear. It certainly is an OPP. Our commissioner came up a few years ago with a change of culture, a way to, what are the things that we should do better? And there was several reviews done. And there's a lot of effort to bring this to life and to really change the entire culture. And that's why when I talk about our communities, and especially when we talk about emergency management of scenes and how do we handle that. We often maybe lose focus, and it's not about us, no, it's all together. Like the fire we had in Glenwater, that's a good example of how we can work in hand. It was just as terrible, very terrible event. But looking in hindsight of the whole cohesiveness of how we worked all together, it was just really, really nice to see from fire to paramedics to the OPP and even the counties, the municipality here. Before I forget, to that event, the inspector asked me to mention to you if there was any plan to on the emergency plan for South Glengarry, if you have a pre-identified family reunion center. Because what we learned, the takeaway from what happened in Glenwater is now we need to find a place quick for a family we need to evacuate. And where do we need to take them? It was decided, it was nice. It really happened quickly. But the thing is, this is one of the items that we need to make sure that it's already pre-established. We know if something happened major, we need to displace a large amount of people. Where do we go?
So for that question, I direct it to Mrs. Haley and Ms. Servage, who took care to, I guess, get that fairly quickly, as you mentioned. So do we have a pre-established place, or does it really depend on where the event occurs? And then maybe that's a question that you can have after the council. It's a little unfair now, but after the council meeting, if you guys can get in touch about that particular nuance, would that be okay?
Yep. Just want to make sure that because I didn't want to forget, because he actually sent me an email about it. So
No, that's good, Councillor Jaworski.
Thank you, through you, Mayor McDonald. No, I just wanted to thank you again, Sergeant Lamontagne, for being here. I think it's really helpful when you walk through this information and give us your context. And yeah, no, I think it's very helpful for us to understand the pressures you're working with and that impacts our communities. And I guess what I wanted to say now is it was a comment to our county councillors that, I'm glad that the MCERT is, we're continuing to fund that, but it's unfortunately because we're not getting long-term funding from the province, it does come back to us, and it's so easy for councils to say, oh, well, it's not our responsibility. We shouldn't be doing this, and to pull it out. But just like Sergeant Lamontagne's been explaining, like the dividends that pays back to our community members is just so important. So just thank you for supporting it. Please continue to support it in future budgets.
And if I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I think it was close to 50% reduction from MHA apprehension from when we started. And the first few years was tough because we didn't have enough data to put together. But now as we move along, and facing an increasing amount of mental health challenges. We're no nurses, we're no medical experts. So we need to tap into those people that can address those issues as they come along. And I'm really, really glad that here in SDNG we have that set up, and it's proven to be efficient and effective, and that I can't even think that we could to do this again without them, without that unit. We would clog the ER, which is already filled, and we don't have the resources either. Often we say we have 2 officers. It's 2 officers per person that we apprehended. We end up with 2. We end up with 3. That's 6 officers. And so you have 12 officers across SDNG. See, if you make the math, now we have nobody covering large areas. Now there's a 911 call that come in. There's something really life-threatening incidents, and we have nobody nearby. Closest be 30 minutes, 45 minutes away. So that's why those make such a huge difference. This is, thanks again for supporting the MCERT. Really appreciating.
Glad to, and thank you very much for your presentation.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right, we will move into bylaws. To constitute and appoint a committee of adjustment for 2024, Ms. Haley, moved by Councillor Jaworski, seconded by Councillor McDonnell. Be it resolved that Staff Report 137, 2023 be received in Bylaw 83, 2023, being a bylaw to constitute and appoint all members of council to the Committee of Adjustment for the Township of South Glengarry for the year 2024 be read a first, second, and third time, passed, signed, and sealed this 18th day of December 2023. I guess it's pretty much as stated. In that regard, does council have any questions to the staff report? All right, we continue to wish to want to be the Committee of Adjustment. Yes, perfect. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you, Ms. Haley. Okay, we'll go to consent agenda. Item 10C, Department Update, Parks, Recreation, Culture, November 2023. Is that Stephanie or Councillor Jaworski, sorry?
No problem, through you, Mayor McDonald. Yeah, no, that was me, and it's not so much a question. I just wanted to thank Ms. Servage for her update, and as I was looking through it, I just found it, there's just a piece of information that I was like, it was very helpful that there was that level of additional detail coming, and I'm just trying to pull it up, sorry. Had to do with, like the Tartan Hall operations, like the number of, events that there are and the number of bookings that there are. Just seeing those numbers, I mean, obviously I'm aware that lots of things are happening, but seeing the numbers like that, and, I do spend a lot of time in the different facilities, so knowing how much work, can go along with some of these different things, I think it's very helpful to see those kind of numbers. So I just wanted to thank Ms. Servage for adding that extra level of detail.
Well, thank you from Councillor Jaworski. And from us, Department Update Infrastructure Services. This was Councillor Jaworski again.
Yeah, thank you, through you, Mayor McDonald. There's a lovely photograph, probably one of the better selfie photographs of the of township staff, but that's not why I pulled it. I pulled it, again, there was, and again, I appreciate the level of detail here, and hopefully infrastructure doesn't feel that by adding more detail, they're causing me to ask more questions. But one item, just at an analysis of the case, like the calls that came in, requests for customer service that came into infrastructure that were logged. There was a note that there was a high volume of calls related to potholes and brushing, and I wanted to request, just because that particularly brushing having been an item that did get a lot of questions, I thought it might be helpful both for council and sort of for staff also going forward to do sort of like a roundup report of just how the program went, how much was completed, the cost, any learnings, because I think we are trying to do a lot, we're trying to do a lot more of this than that we were. And it's also generating a lot of questions. And I think having a report like that would be helpful just as, history for what's happened and also, as a reference for when we're addressing resident concerns moving forward too.
So would that report be specifically for the roadside brushing on this one? Or
Correct. That's what my specific interest is, yeah.
Okay, no, that'd be interesting because it allows us to say, I think that's at 385 kilometers. We're trying to push back a lot of brush, like levels of service, expectations versus what we can afford. I think that's a good conversation to have, like together. So I would, if you could get that back to infrastructure.
Certainly, Your Worship, thank you.
Certainly you can, Deputy Mayor Lang.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. Just on the brushing, I know everybody's got lots of complaints and lots of emails about the unsightliness of it, I guess, if you want to call it that. But as far as getting the brush back, I think they did a great job. I did get 2 farmers that called me and said that, they appreciated the fact that the brush was pushed back, and I'll add my own to that. I've been driving the combine around a lot the last 2 or 3 months, as everybody knows. Combine's wide and it's high. I am hitting more brush with my mirrors and lights on the county roads now than I am on any of the roads. The roads that we did, I'm hitting nothing. I drove the Glen quite a bit last week and hit nothing. So, as unsightly as maybe it is doing what we intended to do, and it's getting the brush back. It's not hitting the machines anymore. So, and it's not just farm machinery. Large trucks also hit that and hit mirrors. And just for a reference, like the mirror on a tractor now, they're the same as our vehicles. They're heated and you can adjust them from in the cab, so they're electric. They're $1,000 a piece. So if you hit brush and you break a mirror, it's $1,000 that's you're out of pocket. So it's good to see that brush getting pushed back.
Thank you for highlighting some positive out to it.
If I could add on
Sure,
that one
Councilor
too.
Jaworski.
School buses. But also I think just with the weather events and all the freezing rain we've been having, I think, if we have another event like what we had last April where there was so much cleanup that we had to do, I think this is going to help reduce how much cleanup. And I know Deputy Mayor Lang, you had to deal with the fire service. You were doing a lot of that. And you had mentioned at that time, wouldn't it have been nice if some of this had been pushed back at that time? So, yeah, but I completely agree. It is unsightly. It is unsightly. And maybe, in this report back, there'll be some learnings or things that, again, see what we can do better. Thank you.
No, thank you.
One thing I might just,
Oh, yes,
it
go
is
ahead.
unsightly this year, but if we keep this up, I think it would be a lot, like it's going to be small brush then that we're mowing instead of, the larger stumps and stuff that they're seeing now. I think it's been let go for a little while, and because we're having to do a lot, that's why it looks so terrible.
Yes, and I'm sure there's a few industrious individuals who may have cleaned up in front of their properties too. So I thank them for doing that as well, because sometimes we do a process and it can be tidied up. We have a good community for that. I had the department update finance. So that was my request. There's nobody from finance here. I was just hopeful if you could go back to the finance crew. And I know that given the situation with 2022 year end, it's kind of hard to get the budget going. But if we could have tentative timelines and realistic ones, I appreciate the work that's involved in doing year ends back to back. So if that could, something can come back to council, maybe in an email, just try and get a date where you want it sitting really, so we can plan for it.
We'd be happy to do that, Your Worship. Thank you.
Thank you. 10G 2024 Committee Processes and Handbook. Councilor Jaworski.
Thank you, through you, Mayor McDonald. So when I originally saw that on the agenda, I was like, oh, what is this? And is this something that's really needed? But when I read through it, after reading through it, I was, it changed my perspective for sure. I realized like, wow, this is a good document, and it's probably something that we should have had for some time to help committee members, because some folks come to committees with really no background at all. So I think it's handy, and it's not too complicated. I think it's at that right level of information and brevity, but still being useful. So thanks for putting that together.
Thank you from Councilor Jaworski and us. So then we'll move to the consent agenda. Or ratifying it. Moved by Councillor McInnell, seconded by Councillor Bougie. Be resolved that council accepts the items listed on the consent agenda. All those in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, carried. So we will now move into closed session. For those watching online, that's a due to you, and then we'll come back. So unlikely that, given that we'll report very quickly coming out, I just want to give perhaps council as a whole a chance. I'd like to say Merry Christmas to the community and everybody at this table, or celebrated holiday if it's not Christmas. So on behalf of council, Merry Christmas, everyone, and happy holidays, and Happy New Year, too. Okay. Council convened to close session at 7:46 p.m. to discuss the following items under Section 239(2) of the Municipal Act, SO 2001. 2, a meeting or part of a meeting may be closed to the public if a subject matter is being considered is litigation or potential litigation, specifically litigation, advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, specifically legal advice litigation. All those in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, we will go into closed session. All right, welcome back. We're coming out of closed session. So moved by Councillor McDonnell, seconded by Deputy Mayor Lang. Be it resolved that council rise and reconvene at 8:26 PM into open session without reporting. All those in favor? Carried. Moved by Councillor Jaworski, seconded by Councillor McDonnell. Be it resolved that administration be directed to carry out all actions as specified in the closed session minutes. All those in favor? If opposed? Carried. Moved by Deputy Mayor Lang, seconded by Councillor Bougie. Be it resolved that Solicitor Kevin Cook be directed to carry out all actions as specified in the closed session minutes. All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. So this is now to our confirming bylaw. Moved by Councillor McDonnell, seconded by Deputy Mayor Lang. Be it resolved that Bylaw 84, 2023, being a bylaw to adopt, confirm, and ratify matters dealt with by resolution, be read a first, second, and third time, passed, signed, and sealed in open council this 18th day of December, 2023. All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. And then before adjournment, if anybody comes in and just sees this one, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year again. Moved by Deputy Mayor, and that's from all of us at council and staff. Thank you for a great 2023. Looking forward to 2024. Moved by Deputy Mayor Lang, seconded by Councillor Jaworski. Be it resolved that Council of the Township of South Glengarry adjourn to the call of the chair at 8:27 PM. All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Have a good evening.